Adventure and Pipeman on W4CY Radio.
Your psycho disposition is clouding over me. A modern version of a guillotine. It must be so rewarding.
This is the Pipeman here on the Adventurous Pipeman W4CY Radio. Fresh back from Welcome to Rockville in Daytona, Florida. As you can tell, I lost my voice, but no rest for the wicked because we're back with a killer band that we need to interview that was not at Rockville, but I'm going to tell Danny Wimmer in this interview that he needs to put them on Rockville next year.
Yeah, thank you.
So let's welcome to the show John from Living Wreckage. How are you?
I'm great. How about you?
Oh, phenomenal, except I can't speak at all. And that's kind of hard. It's kind of hard when you're a radio person to not be able to speak, you know, but
you had a good time. So
that's all that counts. I always have a good time at the festivals. Like, here's my viewpoint about music. If you're a musician or have any part of music and you're not having a good time, it's the wrong industry to be in, because most everything else besides the fun of being at the show or playing the show pretty much is not fun.
Yeah, the traveling sucks, but the show is what makes it all worth it. But those Danny Wimmer festivals, I've done a handful of those with Anthrax and Shadows Fall, and they're awesome.
Right?
It's a fun time.
And they're only getting bigger and better.
Yeah, I hope someday Living Wreckage gets to do it, because I just love doing those.
Yeah, and you know what? I love hearing that, because I've been doing the festivals since the very beginning, and I do all of them. And I always ask artists at the festival, how does Danny treat you as an artist? Because, you know, you as an artist know that there's, you know, some festivals, you're not treated so great as the artist.
No,
you know?
Some of those festivals, you know, you have Sandy Can, and maybe not the best catering backstage, and maybe it's not that comfortable, but Danny Wimmer's fest, they're always comfortable, and it's all good.
And it makes it easy too when you have somebody running it like a well-oiled machine like Danny does, because nothing's worse than stressing out on load in and sound check before you got to do a gig.
His people all care. They care about the fans and they care about the bands, and they're great.
And to me, that's so important.
Yeah.
And I think that it's stuff like that makes being a musician saying, hey, this is a good day.
Yeah. And it's cool because it's not all the same type of band either, even though it's mainly rooted in rock and metal, but there's so many diverse acts, and it's a little something for everybody.
As a perfect example, we got code redded, 3 days in a row, but one of the days we got code redded, which is the evacuation. Waka Flocka was performing, and he jumped out into the crowd and started a mosh pit. Like, one of the last people you would think would start a mosh pit, and there it was.
Yep. Yeah, it's good time, man.
Yeah, I think that's also what's happened with the Danny Wimmer festivals, like Europe. It's brought together multiple genres and exposed people to multiple genres, because I'll tell you what, that crowd for Waka Flocka was one of the biggest crowds of the festival, and that's not a metalhead type of thing.
That's a good thing, is because it exposes people to something they probably wouldn't go out on their own to check out.
Mm-hmm.
But
exactly.
And they're like, oh, wow, I do like this. You know, this is cool.
Right?
Or maybe I've never heard of this band, or what's this? And then that's the greatest, is when you discover something that you like, because finding new music rules.
Exactly. You know, that's why I think festivals are about myself anyway. Like, the people that complain, oh, my favorite band, the only one I was going to see got cut or whatever. If you're going there to see one band, go to their concert.
Yeah.
You know, to me, the festival's where I find my new favorite bands.
Yeah, you gotta at least want to see a handful of bands if you're gonna go to that.
Exactly. So tell me how Living Wreckage came about.
So Living Wreckage was born in the fall of 2019.
What timing?
Yeah. So this is how it went down. So Anthrax just finished up their tour cycle. So I knew I was going to have some time off. I didn't know I was going to have that much time off. So as we know, the shit hit the fan for a couple of years.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of time. So I got to put together a band. We wrote a record. That record, the first record debut came out September of 2021. Now we're working on the second record. We're 6 songs mixed and mastered. And we're going back in August to finish the rest of it. And then hopefully we're hoping an early 2027 release.
Nice. And I have to focus on something with the records. Now, first of all, I've said for a while, if you're going to take a positive out of that whole lockdown of live music during COVID, then what it is, it gives artists the chance to jump off that hamster wheel and get creative again.
Yeah.
And to me, I think that's what happened.
There was nothing to do but that. And it was
right?
I mean, I got super down during that time because I didn't know being a musician, you couldn't have a worse profession because you're the last people they want back to do anything. So we were the last ones to get back out there, and there was a point where I was like, "Is this ever going to be a thing again?" You know, it was very scary. But that being said, I was playing guitar every day because it's the only thing that could help me keep my mind off things, and I wrote a lot of riffs for Living Wreckage and a lot of riffs for Shadows Fall.
Nice. And so now you have the second album you're working on. What I really dig too is, you know, you kind of had to rush the debut album, and this one you're able to take your time, be creative, and polish it.
Absolutely, because the first one, when we went in to record that, we were only planning on doing 5 songs, maybe an EP. We were gonna have EP or show it to some labels, see if there was interest. And we were moving so fast that we were like, all right, let's just record the record because we're here. Let's do it. So it was kind of cool to do it that way, but this one is a lot more laid back. We're recording, and now we're taking some time away. Get to live with the songs a little bit, change anything we don't want, and we're going to go back in for another session in late summer, do it over again, live with it for a little bit, and release it in 2027.
Nice. And
that's one of the good things about having our producer Zeuss. We all live near each other, so we can whenever we're open, we can just be like, all right, hey man, you want to do this now? And it's not a tight schedule of we have to do it from this day to this day and that's it. You know, it's real laid back, and
that makes it so much more fun. Right?
Yeah, because there's no, all right, we're in the studio, we have 3 weeks, like no messing around, let's go. And then you're thinking, how are we going to finish this at some point? You know, I've been in those situations like, we have how many, like, we're not going to fucking get it done by then.
Right, exactly.
So it's very cool to have this laid back. It's the same way because Shadows Fall is doing the record with Zeuss too. So that's a good thing about one of the major perks of having a kick-ass producer that lives near you.
Exactly. And so what made you think to do Living Wreckage instead of like writing more music for Shadows Fall or anything else that you were doing? So
Shadows Fall is heavier. That's more thrash, death metal oriented. And I grew up on the classic metal. Like I love the hair metal. Like I love Bon Jovi. I don't know. I don't even like that term. It's just it was like the commercial 80s metal, you know. But it was on MTV. That's what made me want to play Rat, Bon Jovi, Skid Row. The guys who were in the main rotation of MTV. And then of course, I got a little bit older and I got into stuff like Priest, Maiden, and then the Big Four.
Yeah.
And then eventually death metal. But with Living Wreckage, I wanted to have a more melodic hard rock metal band. So that's where we're more towards that end, and Shadows Falls more towards the extreme metal end.
Totally.
But yeah, I think Living Wreckage rides a fence of like thrash and some arena rock. So I think we could go out with some thrash metal bands, like melodic thrash band like Testament. I think we can make it work, or we can go out with some more.
You could probably do with Megadeth too.
Yeah, like something that, and I think we could go with maybe more of a radio type stuff like Volbeat, Disturbed.
Yeah.
I think we can play with both crowds and kind of fit it somewhere in there.
I was listening to a song, Righteous Side of Sanity, the first single. And it's funny you're saying what you are, because the exact vibe I got within 30 seconds, it was like if Fistful of Metal, the album, were combined with power metal.
Yeah.
That's the song.
So when I wrote the music to that, I was saying like I was probably listening to a lot of Maiden, Priest, and Rat at the time.
I totally see it too.
But there's some thrash metal sprinkled in there, you know.
It definitely had I'm an old school thrash metal head. I was at Slayer and Metallica's first show ever.
Yeah.
So, you know, and funny story that I say about the power metal thing. That first Metallica gig, Mustaine gets off the stage and he starts talking to me. I'm like 13, I think. And he hands me this business card. Like, everybody asks me nowadays, do you still have it? No, I was 13. I was like, what the fuck is this? And throw it away. But, right? But it said Metallica power metal Dave Mustaine, because there was no thrash name.
Yeah, nobody named it yet.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, it's kind of funny to think of Metallica being considered power metal.
Yeah.
But then I listen to this song and I can see it, because that's what I heard was power thrash.
I like that. So I would say what Live in Wreckage is it's like 80s, 90s, early 2000s metal, hard rock mixed all together. But the thing is, all the vocals are mostly melodic. There's some screams in there, but we wanted to make sure, or when we started the band, we were going to get a melodic singer.
And you know what? That is something funny enough, that I have the big four that would describe Belladonna.
Yeah, which is funny because when I was a kid, they were the first ones that I got into out of that genre because of Joey's voice, because I was more into the pop metal, I guess.
Right.
So the other bands are a little bit too scary for me. Yeah, came around, but Joey's vocals, that caught my attention. I was like, all right, the big melodies. Anthrax had the big melodies still, even though the guitars were trashy and stuff. There was big vocal hooks, and you know, Joey's that good of a singer where he can go do the national anthem. You know,
no doubt,
he's a singer.
Exactly, like he goes and does his Journey thing, and
yeah,
you know,
like, that's what I definitely wanted when we were starting this band. Like, I want a singer, like a guy who would be able to do the national anthem, but you know, he's a rock singer, has some balls to, you know.
And what's cool about your music is, I find nowadays with the heavier extreme music, there is no real diversity to it. Like if you take a lot of them that have no blending of genres and go into micro genre, they all sound the same, like they're using a formula to make metal music.
It can be hard. Like to me, a lot when I'm listening to a lot of the newer stuff, it's hard for me to say who's who, because I can't.
And I was never like that.
That's that. And I also like bands. It's my favorite stuff is like when you hear the chorus the second time, you got it.
Right.
You know, the song's there. So
totally.
I like try to go for that. Like if you can remember the chorus after the second time, you did something right.
There you go. I love it. And like, okay, so I remember back in the 80s, you know, people used to say, oh, that stuff sounds the same. And I used to argue with them because it didn't.
Yeah.
Now I'm like on that group.
To me, all those singers in the 80s, like you could tell who they were as soon as they started singing. Like any of the big four, you know right away which band it is as soon as
exactly. I talk about that all the time.
Or even all the commercial 80s bands, you know, like Axl Rose, Bon Jovi, Sebastian Bach, they all, you know who they are as soon as they start singing.
Well, that's like when you take some of those bands and put a different singer, it's not that band, in my opinion. Like you take Motley Crue, okay? Yeah. When they had Karabi, you know, he's good, but he's not Motley Crue. Like Vince Neil is the sound of Motley Crue, even with a bad voice. It's still
it's hard to replace the singer, because that's what you get used to. That's the hardest person to change it. And to me, sometimes some bands pull it off, but I don't know. I don't know. That's a hard one.
Very few do though. Like even unpopular opinion. But you know, Armored Saint's one of my favorite bands, and I love John Bush. I'm not into him being Anthrax's singer. Like to me, and like I heard Neil originally, but to me, most of the time, that was just one album. It was Joey, and that was the sound of Anthrax.
Yeah, when you get used to something, it's hard to change your way of thinking. What one band that I love both, and I can't decide. Like I go back and forth. Well,
Kill Switch.
No, Van Halen.
Oh, see, I'm a total David Lee Roth person.
I love both, and it just depends what mood I'm in. Like sometimes I like that more polished.
Well, melodic. I like Sammy Hagar as a musician, as a vocalist, but you know,
I know all like some Van Halen fans are like, you fucking
like idiot. I'm from the beginning of Van Halen, and like David Lee Roth, he was just such a character. You know?
Like, I know he's one of the best. And then I also love David Lee Roth, Eat 'Em and Smile. I thought that was an unbelievable record because that holds a certain place for me. Because my first two tapes when I was a kid, it was Christmas of '86. I got Slippery When Wet, and I got Eat 'Em and Smile, and my first boombox. So that was it. That was like when this all started. And I, had tunnel vision if I want to play in a band.
So that's what started it for you. Then that's what led us to today.
Yeah, that was it.
So what led me to today, and literally today, is I was from Jersey, and 1980, my dad came up to me and said, pack your bags. We're moving to California in 3 days.
Whoa.
And then shortly after I'm there, I went to my first club show ever at the Roxy on the Sunset Strip. It was Motley Crue before they ever had an album. They weren't even glam yet. They were like horror punk.
So you went straight into Hollywood.
Oh, 100%, man. I was in that whole 80s Sunset Strip scene.
Where were you in Jersey before that?
I grew up in North Jersey, Montclair, Little Falls, Roseland. I've lived all over Jersey. I actually went back to go to college. That was my choice. But
so you saw the sunset at the height of it all. Yeah. I mean, I wish I could have a time machine to see that.
Oh my God, it was insane. Like a lot of the bands you're mentioning, it's like Rat. I remember there was one gig, it was Armored Saint and Rat. And like, I was friends with Armored Saint, and it's like, you want to hang backstage or go see the Rat show? I'm like, fuck, I'm not going to see Rat. But I did. Like, one of the first times I ever had sex was to Sweet Cheater.
Awesome.
I remember it all too well, too, because my dad came home and decided that was the night he was going to give me a lecture for smoking. But yet I had some chick in the bedroom, and he didn't know.
While you were listening to Rat.
While I was listening to Rat. And then, like, those parties, man. Like, I was at the party when, Vince left with Razzle, which that kind of sucked.
Oh, man. Oh, wow.
But those parties were like unbelievable. Like I used to hang out with Mick Mars at the mall. Mick Mars and Chris Holmes of Wasp. We used to go to the mall.
Oh, yeah. I could like that decline of the Western civilization, man.
It's like home movies.
I watched that thing so many times, and if I still come across it, I'm gonna watch it. If it's on somewhere, I'm gonna sit down and watch their whole thing.
It's like home movies to me. And then also the one. Murder in the Front Row. That's total home movie.
Yeah, the thrash metal one.
Yeah, because like I was really into Slayer and Metallica when they first came out.
Yep.
And I was kind of like not into the hair bands because there was a lot of gatekeeping back then.
Yeah,
I liked some of them, but you couldn't admit it.
Right. I had that talk with some of the Exodus guys because we were on the last Anthrax tour. It was Megadeth, Exodus, and Anthrax, and we did Canada. and we all went on the Anthrax crew bus, and we throwing them back, having a good time, and we put on hair metal. And when Rat came on, even Gary and Lee, the Exodus guitar players, were like, "Yeah," we're like, "We all like this stuff," even when we said we couldn't say it, but we all knew Rat was badass players.
Totally. And funny story about that with Exodus and that whole thing. Like, so when Slayer went up to the Bay Area after Metallica, they used to wear the eyeliner to look evil.
Yeah,
and they went up there, and Exodus was like, yeah, take that shit off. That don't fly up here. Maybe in LA, but not here. And they're like, oh, it's for evil. We don't give a fuck. Take that shit off. And then when Metallica and Slayer left LA, me and my bro used to hitchhike to the Bay Area to go to those shows up there that were absolutely insane.
Yeah, that was another scene, man. So you were in two major scenes where everyone talks about and wish they could be there,
right? From the very beginning.
Yeah, you saw two. That's insane, because you saw the commercial side of it, with Rat and Motley, and then you got to see the underground part. But then even those bands all became huge.
And I remember sitting backstage, teenager, and watching all these hair bands sign with record labels and listening, and the record labels telling them, okay, you're going to dress like this, you're going to do your music like this. And it kind of turned me off to music. Like, I left the music scene because of it, because like, fuck that. I wouldn't want anybody telling me how to do music,
Yeah, it seems like if you were on a major label, like, then you were getting told what to do.
Totally. My belief is there is a place for the suits, I'm all about that, but let them do their job and let the musicians do their job. Like,
yeah,
they're not the ones that should say how a musician plays their music. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. That's why it's nice that some of the smaller labels took over for rock and metal, because they weren't like that.
Totally.
Because the smaller labels were more fans. The indie labels were more fans than the suits. They understood the music, and they were fans of the music, so they weren't no one was gonna tell Slayer to write a ballad,
Exactly. And I talk about all the time and praise Brian Slagle. Like, even a few years ago, I walked up to him and I was like, man, you were a genius. He goes, I was just a record store clerk, because he used to be a record store clerk at Oz Records, and then he started Metal Blade. And so all us teenagers used to go in there to get our albums, and he's the one that introduced me to pretty much every band and every show that I went to.
Yeah, Slagle rules. He's a great guy.
Oh, it like, he didn't plan it that way, but what a brilliant way to market, because we'd be a teenager. Here, check out this album. And you'd buy it because he said, check out this album. Or here, BAM Magazine, go to this show.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or when labels, the underground labels, whether it's like Metal Blade, Century Media, like all the like Nuclear Blast type labels, you would buy a band, you would take a shot at it just because the band was on that label. You're like, well, if they're on this label, they
must be good. Yeah, they must be.
Blindly buy it.
Oh yeah, like I think about it too. Like today, I think a lot of kids are probably missing out on what would be their favorite bands.
Yeah, I agree 100%, because I've had this experience. I used to, so in high school, I would save up my lunch money. I wouldn't eat lunch, so about the end of the week, I'd have enough money to buy a CD.
Exactly.
And then maybe it didn't hit me right away, but I'm like, you know what? I saved up all week for this. I'm going to see if there's something there. So I just keep listening. And eventually, a lot of that shit became my favorite stuff. And it hit me right away. Pantera was like that. I was a Skid Row freak as a kid. They were opening up for Skid Row. I never heard anything that heavy in my life. Metallica was the heaviest thing I was listening to. I saw them and I was like, I don't know, man. I mean, the crowd's going crazy. And I'm like, this is something different. So I was taking guitar lessons at the mall. I went past the record store. I'm like, I'm going to buy that Pantera CD because I just saw them. And I had to spin it a few times. Now they're my favorite band.
Well, it's funny you should say that, because I had a similar experience. when I bought Back in Black,
Mhm.
first of all, I was a Bon Scott fan anyway, but I didn't like that album when I first listened to it. But you paid your good money that you worked your ass off
Yeah.
to get your $7 or whatever, and so you would listen it over and over again because you weren't going to waste your money.
Yeah.
And then I
plus,
loved it.
and plus, there wasn't 700,000 records coming out that day. Like now, it's just like, well, if sometimes you don't even get through half of the first song, and you don't even give it a chance because you're on to like, what else can I get? And you can have it like that.
Well, I think of some of my favorite songs ever.
Mhm.
If I were in this generation, I would never listen to the song because like you take Battery by Metallica. I
Mhm.
would listen to the first 10 seconds and like, what the hell is this? And then go to the next track. But then if you waited a few seconds,
Yeah.
Think
about all those songs with those long intros that like
Yeah.
have like a minute and a half intro until the vocals come in, that you would like, people would have just been like, next.
Exactly. And I think of too when one of my favorite songs, Fast as a Shark.
Right
Like
on.
that beginning, and it's funny. So the former guitarist Spitz is a good friend of mine.
Mhm.
And he told me straight out, he goes, we all sat around when that song came out and we were like, oh my God. And the big four all deemed that the first thrash metal song ever.
I've heard them all talk about that. Yeah.
And I have a story too that's wild about that song so I went to see Ozzy with Randy Rhoads.
Oh.
Yeah. It was on New Year's Eve, right before he died. And I lied to my dad, told him I was sleeping at my friend's house. My friend lied to his parents, say he was sleeping at my house. You do that.
Yeah.
And then we went to a show, and then we got back at like, I don't know, 2 a.m. or whatever. So I lived in Lake Lindero in Agora, where there was a hill in my backyard that went down to the lake. So we just went to the bottom of the hill by the lake. So if my dad woke up, he wouldn't see me, but we were still at my house. My next door neighbor comes out, and I'm like, oh, fuck. And she goes, hey, boys, were you just at the Ozzy show? Because she saw us wearing the shirts and stuff. And we're just like, yeah, we thought we were busted. She goes, hold on. Don't move. Famous last words that you think you're busted. I want to get my husband. Husband comes out. He invites us up to the house. He had a studio in his house, wall-to-wall cassette tapes. And turned out he was Ozzy's promoter. Like,
what are the chances?
Holy shit. And he hands me this tape and he goes, listen to this band because they have they're not in this country yet. They'll be here in about 6 months and they're going to be huge. And it was that Restless and Wild CD.
Oh, wow.
So I remember we listened to the first song, of course, Fast as a Shark, and we were just like, holy shit, what the hell is that?
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a great story.
Right? That's the 80s. There's lots of great stories. If you remember them all, that's a whole nother story because of all the debauchery.
Especially the 80s, yeah.
No doubt. So tell everybody how they can reach out to you on socials, on the web, get the album, check everything out.
Yeah, Live in Wreckage and myself. I'm on Facebook and Instagram. The new single, I would say if you like classic metal, thrash, and check out Live in Wreckage, new single, Righteous Side of Sanity. And help us spread the word. We need the help.
Well, I'm glad to spread the word because everybody's got to listen to that song. It is badass.
Oh,
I'm a gamer. So I really love that the single is to be featured on Sound System. So that's really freaking cool.
That's why we put out a single right now. I mean, because we put it out ourselves, a standalone single, because the Sound System game, there's already people demoing the game on YouTube.
Nice.
So the song was out there. I'm like, we better get the real version out there because the gaming one has all the like ping, 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 all over it. I'm like, I don't want people to think that
That's the song.
We kind of rushed and put out the single just so people can hear it. And plus, we were excited to get some kind of new music out there. So let people know we're still working.
Totally. Well, I love it. And I also have the utmost respect for any musician that can change gears to working in multiple bands and multiple genres. Like
yeah,
that's a true musician.
So all I do is sit around and riff.
Nice. I love it. That's how to do it. That shows that you absolutely are a musician, that you love it.
Love it. I'm a lifer.
There it is. Well, thanks a lot for giving us some more great music, and thanks for being on the Adventures of Pipeman.
Thank you, man. Hope your voice feels better.
Yeah, I got another interview after this. It'll feel better just in time, maybe, to go to download in a couple weeks. Or actually, I'm doing Milwaukee Metal Fest too.
Okay, yeah, I leave for Europe Monday with Anthrax, and we're doing all the festivals out there. So
nice. Yeah, I normally do Hellfest. I'm not doing it this year because my son wanted to do some Father's Day thing. But I love the European festivals and the UK festivals. You guys should play at Bloodstock too.
We have.
I love that festival.
Yeah, maybe next year.
There you go. All right, well, take it easy, brother. And
all right, take care,
anytime you need a promotion, just let me know.
Thank you so much.
You got it.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Adventures of Pipeman on W4CY Radio.